I'm Karen Hoyt, Marketing Director at Shasta Regional Medical Center, and we're proud to be part of the conversation that the forum at KIXE is bringing to our community. Shasta Regional has been around for more than 60 years supporting our community, and we would like to invite you to be a part of the forum on KIXE. Together, we can support the community that gives us back so much. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to the forum. I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my guest host today, Dr. Doug McConnell, and he is the cardiothoracic surgeon at Shasta Regional Medical Center. We're also here with our guest today, Mike Frank, who is a serial entrepreneur, past corporate executive and author, and he has now taken those skills and made it his life's work to make an impact, and he's doing it here in our community. So thank you so much for coming on.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell us about what you have going on. Tell us, just start somewhere. You have a lot going on, so it's hard to.
Well, you know, it probably started earlier in my life where, you know, I grew up near Omaha, Nebraska, and I had a family that lived right next door to me, and they had a son that I played with. And this family came into a lot of money and a lot of influence in our community. And I remember as a little guy, like 8, 9 years old, making a vow that someday that was going to be me.
No.
That I was going to have a lot of money and that I would have influence in wherever I was. And so I became pretty driven, pretty ambitious, pretty motivated.
That started that story. Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of just led me into, you know, figuring out, well, how do I make that kind of money and have that kind of impact? And the business community was kind of where I determined, you know, my skill set was best used. So I pursued a career in business and had a great ride.
Yeah.
Worked for some unbelievable companies along the way, from General Mills to PepsiCo to Walt Disney in Hollywood, and then started a couple of telecommunication companies, and I've been an investor and an entrepreneur and countless others. So it's been a fun ride.
Oh, wow. And so then you came and you started your website, and what are you doing now?
Well, you know, I moved up here about 4 years ago from Santa Barbara, and I was doing a lot of executive coaching and consulting in the Los Angeles area.
Right.
When I came up here, we came up here because my wife wanted to be up here, and when we came up here, I knew that I probably didn't have the same pool of big corporations or talent that I was going to be able to do the kinds of things I was doing down in the Los Angeles area. So I kind of reshaped myself into somebody who has really got more active and more involved and less involved in you know, companies and more involved in the community. And so I started looking at what was going on in Redding from an economic standpoint. And this was in 2009, so we were still deeply, deeply into the recession.
Yes.
And I think Redding's had somewhat of a history of having kind of a roller coaster up and down kind of a ride economically.
Yeah.
So I thought that's where I'll apply my talents,
That's
to help the community to grow, to, you know, help startups get going here. And so that's where I've spent most of my time in the last few years.
Yeah.
Well, 2009 was an important year for all three of us then, because that stage is the year we all arrived separately, each with different expectations, and I was new to town as well, and helping restart a program, and basically, so we were all building something, and you were about to have a child.
Yes.
So that was an important
I was actually truly building something.
Yeah. That's correct.
That's important.
It is
what we were doing was okay. But
well, Mike, I was in sort of getting ready for this after Ashley had asked me to participate. I took the liberty to get on your website, MikeFrankConsulting.com, to find out a little bit about you. And I was very intrigued by your journey, and from the world of obviously focused and developmental business activities, and that you had done in the litany of many more companies that you didn't have the time to mention here. But there's been a journey beyond just the business attachments. There's also been a personal journey and refocusing of parts of your professional life. And the one on your website, the term that really stuck out to me, and I took the time to just investigate a little, was the term marketplace miracles. And that led to a dimension that you just generally don't tend to see in most business-focused websites where someone's trying to sell their services or their ideas, and you're an idea man.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it kind of actually starts with the fact that about in 1997, we sold a company. I was one of the founders of a telecommunication company, and we sold it to WorldCom for about $14 billion.
Well, that's good.
So that was the last day I had to work.
Drop in the bucket.
To put food on the table.
And
The day we closed that deal. And so that opened up this whole new realm for me of, I don't have to, kind of do the 9 to 5 grind, and I had opportunity to look elsewhere for things that might fulfill me. And so one of the things that I did during that era was I really went after kind of my spiritual life and started looking at what else is out there besides this world of business, which is, I had dedicated pretty much my whole entire life to it. So
is there more to life than a balance sheet?
Yeah, well, I'm here to tell you there is.
Okay, and that's what I think we'd like to hear.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was as I started becoming more aware of things, then I started looking at things a little differently from a different perspective or vantage point. And as that grew, I started really looking at why do some companies make it and why do some companies not make it? And there's a lot written on that from a technical standpoint. But one of the things that really intrigued me was sometimes there's just this divine intervention that happens in businesses that you can't call it a coincidence and you can't call it a stroke of luck.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really comes down to that there really is some kind of divine intervention happening there. And so the best term to use, I guess, is a miracle occurs. So I saw that time and time again in businesses where I would help them, I would get involved in framing some issues for them, and something really positive would happen. And so we kind of coined this term that, wow, that really was a miracle that happened in the marketplace. Often we hear of miracles that are happening when somebody gets healed or they win the lottery or whatever. But in the marketplace, that was fairly, not talked about.
It's not an often used term. As I remember, was it Tom Peters wrote his book about, big businesses. The miracle doesn't snake in there, but it ultimately comes down to many of the human values and human interactive values and basically corporations that have values.
Yeah. And you've probably had some of those marketplace miracles yourself.
Well, my office is an operating room under microscopes operating on people's hearts. So that's a whole nother show. But miracles and seeing things change or changing someone's life is part of what surgery is about. But in the business area, when something really good happens, the number of people that can be affected by the positive changes are enormous. And so I find that a melding of two things. Most people don't see the business world as in some place where the divine or the miracle is typically melted, and that becomes a challenge. But the point is to take that idea and build on it. That's pretty good. Now I think part of your journey also involved the tragic death of a daughter.
It was really kind of I'll just elaborate on this story a little bit. Back in 1992, 93, I was working for the Walt Disney Company in Hollywood. I was a vice president officer of Walt Disney, and it looked like my future was pretty well set for me. But I ended up hearing a guy challenge me with a question. He said, whose dreams are you living? Are you living your dreams, or are you living part of your wife's dreams? And second question he asked me was, do you even know what your wife's dreams are?
Ooh.
And sadly, the answer to the first question was...
Everyone needs to be asking that question. I just want to
so I had to answer the first question, honestly. They were my dreams, totally. I had moved my wife all around the country with these different companies I worked for. And the second answer was, sadly, I didn't know what her dreams were. So
I'm going to go home tonight.
it's a dangerous.
It's actually a very important issue.
It is
I
an
agree.
important question, but it's a dangerous question. You better be ready for the result, because here's what she said. She said, I want to move back to Omaha, Nebraska, where my family is, and I want to have more babies. So we had 2 teenage kids at that point in time, and all of a sudden, I'm in a position where, do I ignore her dreams? Or do I allow myself to be open to those dreams? And the result is we had more babies, 2 more babies. And unfortunately, our daughter was born with a pretty rare chromosome disorder, and she lived for about 4 years. But it took me through a real journey that was really heart-wrenching, because losing a child is very unnatural.
Anytime.
And so that was a pivotal point in my life, though, because it really started making me aware of the feelings I was having, the emotions I was having, versus just kind of living out of my head, so to speak.
Right. And he has this saying of the journey from 18 inches.
Yeah, it's really this book that I wrote. I tell people that the shorthand synopsis of it is, it's a journey of 18 inches, and everybody goes, 18 inches, and it's really living from your head to living in your heart. So my daughter had a very pivotal role in my changing my kind of view and kind of the direction of my life.
And children have an impact on all of our lives, but the loss of a child has really
it was pretty profound.
brings profound things up. So the journey of your business life, then the time when you basically had this introspection about whose dream are you really living, and then of course amplified by your child's loss, has resulted in this book that you've recently published.
Right.
And tell us a little bit about that in the time we have left.
Well, the book is called Prosperity with Purpose, and the subtitle is An Executive Search for Significance. So what happened, I told you previously that I had made enough money that I really didn't need to kind of put food on the table, so to speak. So I really started saying, okay, well then what is the bigger purpose of my life? And so I went on this journey of trying to figure out, how do I make sense of why things happen to me and what I'm supposed to do with those things? And so therefore kind of purpose evolved out of that.
And I love the name. I mean, really, you are here with the purpose in our community, and you're doing some amazing things. You've helped launch a few companies here. It's just, since you've been here, I've heard nothing but your name. So I've heard it.
Well, you've been placed in a position to invest in not only your spiritual future, but the community's future.
Right.
And apparently that's what you've been doing.
And I love it. To me, what it kind of all distills down to is that a big part of my purpose is all about people.
Yes.
Helping people that have
like
been disadvantaged, or helping people that are a little earlier in their journey. I'm getting to be one of the kind of the older, wiser, maybe individuals out there, and so I get asked a lot to help out in terms of help me think through my business idea, or help me think through, where I should be going with my life.
I think working that through is important to all of us and to our viewers, so we'd like to thank you for being here today, and we'll follow up with this wonderful book, Prosperity with Purpose, and your website is mikefrankconsulting.com for further interest.
Yeah, my pleasure being
all
here.
Right, thank you
so much. Hi, and we're back with Dr. Jackson Corley. He is the inventor and founder of Incrediwear, which is an amazing technology that goes into clothing, and he's got all types of products that he's going to tell us about today. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to let everyone know kind of what we're talking about today, and you've got pictures, and we've got legs, and braces, and all kinds of things.
I find it very interesting because in the medical field, healing is the response to all sorts of what, in my world as a surgeon, we're certainly very interested in that subject, and in your profession as a practitioner of chiropractic, healing becomes really something very much important to what our patients are looking for.
Absolutely, and we're trying to look for something that accelerates the healing process, but you might not have the side effects.
Well, and apparently all of what we'll talk about in terms of the products out of this comes out of sort of a principle about localized healing that you apparently experimented with or developed related to carbon and charcoal as simple as that. And then from that has come an incredible number of products that have multi-uses and many users, which we'll talk about. But where does this really start?
As far as where it started too is, you got to know the history a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because
Sure.
that really, I think a lot of products that are developed that are exciting are always out of need.
Yes.
And
Or accidental innovation in your case.
exactly. A lot of people that are developing products, they're developing because they want to make money.
Right.
Okay, what can I do to capitalize
Right.
on, what people need? And that's the one thing that's kind of really kind of cool on this particular story and kind of threads through the entire story is that it was really because I had an accident. I was mountain biking. It was December 27th, 2008. I was up in Upper Park in Chico. It's a local area.
Yeah.
Really steep, and I was by myself, which I shouldn't have done. I had fully geared, so it felt safe.
Right.
But it was 4 o'clock. Took me an hour and 15 minutes to get home, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to go a little bit faster. And I'm biking along, and what happened? I hit a lava rock, and I flew off the bike into a little ravine, herniated 3 discs in my low back, but I was by myself, no cell service. I've been lectured.
I know, I'm trying to stop myself from lecturing you, but go ahead.
Yes. So the bad part is I ended up riding out. And it probably was the worst thing, as a doc, you don't want to injure yourself, especially herniated disc, and then try to ride out of the area because
It's not like you had any alternatives.
Right, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be getting dark soon. All right. So out of that injury came some new self-knowledge about healing and evolved into these products.
Yeah. So I had actually done research. I had developed a few other products, and I had done research on products that. Well, the first product was charcoal, like you were talking about. I was looking for something that was an anti-odorant, something to kill odor.
Yeah.
My son's feet.
Oh, okay.
It was really stinky, so I was thinking, I got to develop something for that. And what happened is that I got injured, and it accelerated that learning process. I had gone all the way through chemistry in college, and I was really excited. That was really a great passion of mine. I just loved chemistry. And so I went back to that and looked out in the world to see what else was out that could have potential to increase blood flow.
Right.
And I was thinking semiconductors. Well, Silicon Valley, silica, carbon, germanium, all these elements are in the same family in the periodic table in chemistry, and they all have the same properties. So I was thinking, well, let's go ahead and try and put it together. So I called one of my manufacturers, and lo and behold, this back brace that you see right here, I developed a back brace. We embedded inside the fibers before you even make a thread, carbon and germanium. And it was amazing, really. It was kind of a miracle. I put it on.
And it's very light.
I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk for 2 months because my back was so bad.
I mean, before you put it on.
Before,
Exactly.
I put it on and I couldn't walk anymore. Okay.
Put it on and then and I had
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, and I had severe foot drop. I'd been to 4 neurosurgeons, and I wanted they were kind of back and forth whether they wanted to do surgery. It was really severe, but they didn't know if they'd be able to fix me better than what I was.
Sure.
I had permanent damage already to the nerves in my leg. And what happened was I put it on, I started walking, it started getting better. Then my knees started hurting because I wasn't walking, and then I thought, wow, maybe I'll put the same technology in a knee sleeve. So I made a knee sleeve, and then my foot was cold and numb, and so I made a sock, and that's how it all started. And since then, we've used the exact same technology in each one of the products. But what we've done is
Very good. That's fine.
we actually did studies on it. We wanted to see, okay, is this placebo? Does this really work?
Right.
And as a doc, you know that empirical evidence has got to be. That's the keynote to try to get doctors to accept it and pharmacists.
And that's what I think makes your Incrediwear so amazing too, is that people can go and look for the studies.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can find these studies. They've been done, double blinds. I mean, you had a lot of people doing different, and you have some pretty big news on site. I don't know some of the things that you can and can't say, but it sounds like it's going global right now.
Absolutely.
And you can stop me when I'm getting too close to saying something, but and you've been contacted by quite a few big manufacturers that want to use your product, doctors, things like that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have doctor-wise, it's really kind of exciting because in Chico, because it's local, it's great because we have a vascular surgeon and anesthesiologist. It's helping us out. We're working with a wound center. Originally, what we did was we were working with a lot of big time athletes, and the athletes were saying, "Wow, this really works," and they were saying not only for my injury to make me feel better, but what they were saying is, you know what, I can train harder. You know, I can train longer. I'm not getting as tired, and a hospital got a hold of that up in Canada, and they put our socks and our product, our knee and our underwear that we developed, and they wore it for about 3 to 4 weeks. Their pain went down 90%. Their fatigue level went down more than 90%.
You can sign me up for that one. The fatigue level, I'll just take them.
Well, we do have some U2 pilots sitting in their seats, and their rear gets tired, so now they're using our product.
Those are long, slow flights.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. And we have studies like that going on. And then, as I was saying, in Chico, we had the wound center. They just finished doing their first preliminary tests, what's called tissue perfusion. And as a healing method, if I can increase tissue perfusion, and this is over 20% in 4 or 5 of the people, then tissue perfusion means that it's going to help with the blood flow to a certain area and accelerate the healing.
No, that's it. Well, it's known tissue perfusion is the aim, particularly in so many of our patients, particularly the elderly, have issues with small vessel disease if they're diabetic or have arteriosclerotic disease. And tissue perfusion becomes often the limiting factor in healing. So anything that would truly enhance that is going to work physiologically.
Absolutely.
And you actually have some evidence and studies done with laser Doppler studies of extremities when the technology is applied where you see enhanced blood flow to that extremity.
It's awesome, yeah.
And that's impressive. That's because really the limiting factor in so many of our cardiovascular patients is the fact that their tissue perfusion is not optimal. So this is quite an improvement. And you've got objective evidence, at least as you've shown here, that that's what goes on. So that's impressive to me.
And sorry.
Well, no, I'm just amazed to think this whole journey of yours began really with your son's feet.
Smelly feet, yeah.
And they're not smelly anymore, so that's great.
Talk about a business miracle, which is another subject. But I mean, the truth is that this is a journey through your own injuries.
Absolutely.
And obviously, it sounds to me like the body parts that you're now willing to cover are pretty thorough at this point.
We're getting. That's the thing about this is that what's crazy is that a lot of things we're developing right now are as the result of an athlete or somebody calling us in or giving a testimonial. You know, yesterday we had a testimonial that came in and that person had neuropathy. They're diabetic. They couldn't feel their feet, and now they've been wearing our sock now for about a year and a half. They have to have anesthesia to remove their ingrown toenail or
now they
repair
can feel
it
their feet.
because they can feel their feet.
Yeah.
And we're doing a study on cold feet where you can, literally the feedback is about 30 seconds to 1 minute, their feet aren't cold anymore. And if you think about it, increased blood flow is going to warm something up or cool it down. So it's not always one direction.
Right.
If you have a hot and swollen joint, you put on the product. And we just had Major League Baseball umpires. Well, they're using minor league baseball umpires. In the study, they came to us and said, can we study this fatigue while they're standing in place? And also, if they get injured during the event, can we do something for them? Well, we had the very first day, one of the umpires got hit by a baseball. It was literally the size. We can show you the pictures later. And it's huge. Put on this arm sleeve, and the next day, there was hardly any swelling at all. And so that's increased blood flow. No ice, nothing. It was pretty impressive.
And one of the big things, if we have a little bit of time left, that I wanted to kind of touch on is now you're kind of moving into diabetes, right? Like really focusing your efforts on that with your technology, because with the increased blood flow, which is generally the issue. What would you say? What can you tell people who are kind of dealing with diabetes and what they should be?
Well, I'm going to use it. You know, we talk about stories. So when I developed the socks, my sister has diabetes. She's had it for she's 53 now, I believe.
You know, you're never supposed to tell your sister's
I
age.
know. What are you doing?
I'm in trouble.
We're going to need to move through the story quickly, though, because we're hitting a time press.
Okay. Well, so she had some toes removed, and the whole story is that since she's been wearing our socks, the podiatrist now, we're endorsed by the Canadian Podiatric Medical Association,
quite good.
But the podiatrist now uses our socks on his patients. She went to her cardiologist last week. He wears our socks and is recommending them to all of the patients, which is awesome.
So if you help with fatigue, blood flow, and odor, And then-
We tried
You don't need coffee, you don't even need
No,
to sleep anymore.
I want a set of surgical fatigues for my operating room team, myself included, to begin with soon. So
Awesome.
it's a fascinating concept, but I'm intrigued by this entire successful
Yes.
product line comes out of this basic observation at the level of the original charcoal carbon germanium.
I think, I think sometimes.
So,
Technology, yeah.
and it rests on this pinnacle of real observation and science building up. That's pretty interesting.
I was listening to one of your last people that was on the show, and he was talking about divine intervention in a way. And really, I feel like the hand of God pushed me off the bike to be able to create this.
Yes.
I was great. I was doing great in chiropractic, but I needed to do something else, and it was.
Yeah.
Well, I
something that
think
drove me that
it's a
direction.
great story and journey and a wonderful product line, and based on what you've presented today, there's people that are going to benefit from that. That's a wonderful thing to do. So how can people look up online and find about your success in your products?
It's www.buyincrediwear.com.
All right.
Buyincrediwear.com.
That's a really wonderful story. I think that's very good.
I'm Karen Hoyt, Marketing Director at Shasta Regional Medical Center, and we're proud to be part of the conversation that the Forum at KIXE is bringing to our community. Shasta Regional has been around for more than 60 years supporting our community, and we would like to invite you to be a part of the Forum on KIXE. Together, we can support the community that gives us back so much. Thank you.